All right, welcome everyone. Holding by this Q&A. Yeah, I want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. A few questions came in. Actually, a number of questions came in. See how many we get to. First question that's come up before, but a little different. Say a little different nuance, but still a question that seems to be needs to be dealt with. And the question was, number of questions. First of all, question is, would a rabbi ever tell converts or potential converts not to have a connection to their families when they first convert? I could say even by Bali Tshuva, right? Someone who's returning to Judaism, didn't grow up religious. Should they have contact, with their family? Could be a number of issues. Could certainly be a number of issues. Somebody was told not to have connection with family. Others said, certainly that they should do that. Second part of that question is that good advice? Someone said rabbis never give that advice anymore. So the question was thrown out. Okay, so what do you do? So take that question step by step. So the first part of the question is, would rabbis ever tell potential converts, JITs, never to have connection to their family? Some might, right? Some definitely might, and say that their influence is always going to be bad, right? That's the mentality behind it. You don't have anything to do with them, right? You want to stay away. So that would be the reason that some rabbis would say that. That just says nothing good is going to come out of it. Right? That's probably the mentality behind that. So first part of the question, I would say some rabbis might say that. Now, the advice they were given was they shouldn't have any connection to family. And the second part of the question, I'll explain it further in a second. The question is that good advice? In other words, they were told not to have any connection with family. So I can't answer that. I don't know what it was based on, right? What the idea was based on, not to have any contact. Obviously, the rabbi, whoever they asked, certainly must have known that's probably a good thing not to, right? Or maybe they just thought in general. It's because of background, other things, but I can't really get into someone's head, that I don't know, and I don't know any of the information, right? Any of the information. Let's say better. They didn't ask if it was good advice. They said it was good advice. Okay. So if someone asked, well, do I think it's good advice? I don't know. Can't answer that. But the second part of the question, then we'll explain really in general, is that rabbis never give this advice anymore. Maybe that was back in the olden days, whatever. But they wanted my opinion if that's true. So, again, I can't say, I'm speaking to so many rabbis that are involved in this, meaning that, potential, JIT, Jew in training comes, and asks the question, they can't give a blanket statement. Depends, right? Depends on the situation, right? By Baal Tshuva, it's the same thing. In other words, let's say this family, bunch of born-again Christians. Born-again Christians, Bible thumpers, whatever you want to call them. And what are they going to do? They're going to hammer you. They're going to say, come on, you're going to believe in JC. They're going to try and work on your kids. Let's say. They can make it very unpleasant. A person has a choice. The choice is you can let them keep doing that, or you can agree to disagree and say, fine, you have your opinion, we have ours. We're going to stay to our opinion. You want your opinion, fine. You're not going to convince me. I'm not going to convince you. That's it. You move on. A person has kids and they keep giving it to their kids and you say, okay, we're not having this conversation, right? I'm not allowing you to speak to my kids like this. We can agree to disagree. We'll never talk about this topic. Now, if they agree, okay. If they don't agree, and they say, listen, I'm going to say whatever I want. It's a free world. You can't censor me. So you got to make a decision. You have to make a decision. Is this going to be good or not going to be good? Right? Even though some people will say, which I hate this statement, but some people say blood is thicker than water. Well, so what? What if blood's thicker than water? Family's family. Do I have to, when I was in camp many moons ago, someone made the statement, he said, you gotta try everything once. So I said, I don't think that's true. 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid, right? And said, I don't think that's true. Why not? He said, why not? I know what this person meant. You want to experience everything once, whatever, right? But if I know something is bad, I don't have to do it. So I said, I got an idea. I said, I want you to walk outside the bunk. Only take 60 steps backwards, right? Count 60 steps, and then turn around and run as fast as you can into the bunk wall. I don't think you're going to do that. Oh, but you got to experience everything once. So, I don't have to bang my head against the wall till it bleeds to know it's bad. Right? So if a person knows this relationship is toxic, right? It's toxic. Nothing's good's going to come out of it. Then either you still want to be in that relationship because family's family, or you make a choice, right? And to me, what would the obvious choice be? The obvious choice would be you cut your losses, you move on. That's the obvious choice. You're not going the same way. All they're going to do is hammer you. They're not interested in listening. That's it. Now, is that black and white? Not necessarily. I'm going to say it's so black and white. But at the same time, a person has to see, okay, maybe they had a great relationship before. So nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to change it. You're going in a different direction. Okay. But a person has to realize as well that, what they say, what they do gets complicated. Gets complicated with, having to say things are good when they're not. And what if that person, God forbid, is homosexual or a lesbian? We'll keep this clean. They want your approval over their lifestyle. Well, guess what? Can't have it. You're not going to get it. Just not going to happen. Right? You're not going to get me to say that's a good thing. Not going to happen. They say they're so close-minded, you're so this. Okay. All right, but certain things you can't do. Certain things you cannot, unwrite, so to speak. People don't like it. As my Rebbe would say, go eat kugel. You don't like it, go eat kugel. That's the way it is. That's what God says. That's what the Torah says. Can't change it. So let them talk, sticks and stones. I'm not saying it might not be painful. Family's family, it doesn't matter. It's a parent, it's a sibling, it's cousins. They don't like what the Torah says. Okay. But that's what you represent. That's what we represent. So they're not going to like it. Okay. So they could say, well, if you can't accept this, we're out. I had a relative. I'll tell you a story. I had a relative, many years ago, I was at a wedding. I was at a cousin's wedding. I did this with his relative, whatever, at this wedding. So, I became religious. So we had this conversation, right? We had this conversation years later. And basically, what this cousin had said was, if I see you and you can't hug me, well, I just don't have anything to do with you. That's basically what they said. If you can't do this, it's beneath me. I'm not, this is reality. Deal with it. I mean, they didn't say it necessarily in those terms, right? But they were highly offended. Okay? Is it permissible for a person, for a guy, to hug his aunt? No. That was easy. a granddaughter to a grandfather, that's permissible. Almost anybody else, forbidden. Right? Not only that, to shake a hand of a woman could be death sentence. Could be you have to give up your life. According to many rabbinical authorities, you have to give up your life, even if it's a fish handshake. You know what a fish handshake is? Fish handshake like the queen. Queen will give you a hand, you go like this. Right? The fish handshake. That's it, forbidden. You have to give up your life. That's no severities. Now, I'm going to explain to this relative. It's not relatives, not in the world anymore. But I'm going to sit there and explain. I'm sorry, I can't touch you. I have to give up my life. They're going to go, what are you, a wacko? What do you think I'm going to do? What do you think I'm going to do? You know what that means? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Halacha is halacha. You walk into let's say relative's house. Now, you can't eat their food now. Explain to them you can't eat their food. All these years you ate their food. That's not going to go down so well. I can tell you from experience, not going to go down so well. You can do what you want till someone gets offended. Right? They'll say, oh, you used to do this, you used to do that. Okay, now I don't. Now I don't. When you stop eating someone's house, that's where they draw the line. I shouldn't say they. That's where some people certainly will draw the line. That's offensive. That 100% is offensive. Right? So what is going to answer this relative? Do I have anything to answer that's going to satisfy them? No. So I joked about it. I said, listen, you were the last woman that I danced with. So I made a joke out of it. They think it was so funny. I thought it was funny. I said, after that, I said, who could I dance with? I couldn't dance with anyone else. It was so enjoyable, I couldn't do it with anyone else. I mean, whatever. Trying to make a joke, flattery, didn't go anywhere. Right, now, who's really closed-minded over here? So they're coming to me and saying, you don't do this, we'll never talk. Okay, I think that's a little bit extreme. If I was a Sikh, God forbid, or a Hindu, they would have the utmost respect for such a thing. The fact that, okay, you're Jewish in your family makes it 10 times worse. 10 times worse. If it's something that doesn't affect them, right, in different ways, like if I was a Sikh, would people care? No. If I was a Muslim, no, they just think I'm a wacko anyway, right? But that doesn't have effect on them. They're never going to be a Muslim, right? They're never going to be a Sikh. Oh, but you're an Orthodox Jew. And now you think you're better than us? Yeah, that's where you draw the line. That's when it becomes difficult. Now, does that happen in all families? No. Not going to say. Not going to say it does. There can be mutual respect, but what's the problem? Someone comes to you, let's say a Jew, right? Yeah, a person's Jewish, right? You become religious, you have siblings, and your sibling intermarried. They marry an non-Jew. Right? They marry a non-Jew. So what happens? So now they say they want legitimization. They want you to say, intermarriage is okay. Can't do that. Well, that goes against my spouse. That goes against all my kids. There's no offense to your kids or your spouse. They're not doing anything wrong. You're the one who intermarried. But you have to accept it. It's blood. Who says I have to accept it? Where do they get off saying I have to accept it? Do you believe in the Torah? No. So I do. I believe God spoke at Mount Sinai. God spoke at Mount Sinai. There are things that are right or wrong. I believe it's wrong. And nothing to do with spouse or kids. They didn't do anything wrong. Not you have an obligation to marry a Jew or non-Jew, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They haven't done anything wrong. A Jew who intermarried, they've done things wrong. No question. Now, on top of that, you want me to say it's okay? There's going to be friction. There's going to be friction over here. Now, you're going to say this: if this person is so open-minded till the brains fall out, why does this bother them? 99.9% of all Jews will say that's okay. So what do you care if I say it's not okay? Same thing we mentioned before. The story of pork, right? You got Mr. Haman himself. Mr. Haman himself. Mordechai refuses to bow. He's got power, money, fame. He's got everything. One Jew won't bow down. He says, I hate him, and I'm going to kill all of them because he knows what the truth is. He absolutely knows what the truth is, right? Right? So you take a secular Jew. So you're not going to bow down. You're not going to say it's okay. So you don't say it's okay. So 99% of the world will say it's okay. So what are you worried about? What, that I'm family? That really bothers you? Because, okay, so you think I'm a wacko, okay? So you think I'm a wacko. That's very good. Right? That doesn't answer the question. That bothers you. Why does it bother you? You know why? Because every Jew's got that spark. What does that spark tell him? He's telling me it's not okay. But everyone else does, so who cares? Right? Who cares? What's the difference? What's the difference? But you know why? Because they know what the truth is. They know what the truth is. And if you'd ask most people who are affiliated with the synagogue, are you allowed to marry a Jew, a non-Jew? They'll all say no, but, no buts, right? So the answer over here is it depends. If you can get along without getting into other things, all things being equal, so you can have a relationship. I wouldn't tell people necessarily not to have a relationship. Depends. But a person has to realize also, you understand their world. You understand where they're coming from. You understand what they're going to talk about. A lot of these things you don't have anything to do with. Right? You're not into sports anymore. You're not into movies anymore. You're not into entertainment. You don't want to speak about politics. There's very few things you're going to speak about. That's probably what's going to happen. Depends where a person's holding. Right? So you're not going to have that much in common. Now, should a person have such contact? Some people would say absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know why? Because nothing good's going to come out of it. They're only going to bring you down. That's what they're going to do. They'll bring you down spiritually in many different ways. Many, many different ways. So if a person realizes that, knows which, they're going down that path, that could happen. Very well could happen. Now, on the other hand, I'm not disagreeing with the first position, right? That, you speak to them, you have contact with them. There are things they're going to say, they're going to do that, are not going to be good. Are not going to go according to what the Torah says. And the conversations may not be good either. So it can have an effect. That I'm not disagreeing with. That 100% I would agree. On the other hand, I wouldn't necessarily say just throw the whole thing out. Now, you want to have contact? You can have contact. Right? But I would say though, that in most cases, not all, certainly not all, in most cases, family at some point is going to go by the wayside. That's what's going to happen. In other words, the connection is going to go, or it's going to be minimal. God forbid, it could be between, a parent and a child. Could be between siblings. Right? It definitely could happen. Is it going to happen? I'm not saying it's going to happen. Right? I'm not going to be the prophet of doom. It could be. It could be, but no point. Right? People are going to say, come on. Family not that bad, whatever. Fine. I'm not going to say not. But I would say a lot of people, it happens. A lot of people, family goes by the wayside. That's just what happens. We have different goals, different standards, and they're not willing to compromise. And there are certain things that you obviously wouldn't be able to do. Right? So the goal would be, in some way, would be to try and find some middle ground. Middle ground is hard to find without you compromising your values. I'm not going to say it's impossible. Certain things you can find middle ground. Now, I can tell you for many years, I used to go back to the States, and conversations were never, I wouldn't say any good conversations. Okay, maybe about politics, maybe about this, maybe about that. Right? Once I was there for a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks. As we're getting ready to leave, someone asked a question. Says, can I ask you a question? I said, great. Anything. Everyone else seems to be brain dead. I said, yeah, anything, go ahead. This person wanted to know about the age of the universe. That was like the first question during the entire 2.5 weeks, being around family, friends, or whatever, it's kind of depressing when you think about it. You talk about their stuff or whatever, it doesn't really go very far. But in the end, that was one question I got. But you don't have so much common ground. So a person has to say, okay, is this relationship worth it? You're not going to have that much common ground. So again, it's not cut and dry. Not cut and dry. I can understand why people would say, shouldn't have any contact because it's just about all going to be negative. Okay. On the other hand, may not all be negative, but it's going to be hard. I don't think there's any question. Get together for the holidays. You can't get together that often. Whatever. It's not going to be so simple. So if the only thing I can say is, if there was a good foundation before, then all things being equal, that foundation shouldn't necessarily be broken or damaged. Shouldn't be. Right? In general. Not going to say across the board it won't be, but who says? Right? If the relationship is strong before, so hopefully, the relationship continues. But other things can happen. You can have a good relationship. Person changes their life, they get spit out. Can also happen. I've seen that happen also. Where not only they think you're out to lunch, and you've totally changed your life, right? You've totally changed your life, that's true. But they don't have anything to do with it. So what's their defense mechanism going against the truth? The defense mechanism is we're going to push you out. Can also happen. But you had a good relationship before, doesn't matter. The fact that you did this now, you're out. Can happen. Right? That's even with a good relationship. And if the relationship wasn't that good before, then it just goes. That's what's going to happen. There's going to be very, very little common ground. Now, if someone were to ask, is that the way it should go? No, I'm not saying that's the way it should go. I'm saying the reality is that's probably what's going to happen eventually. May not be at the beginning, right? But eventually I think that's going to happen. So would I say, now the question was, someone said rabbis never give this advice anymore. That was only in the olden days. I don't know. I think if I would ask my Rebbe today this question. I think if I would ask him, he would say even by Jews, even speaking to secular Jews is a problem. In general, just because of what they're going to say, in different things. Right? But he would also say, you should have contact, maybe minimal contact, and that's it. I don't even think he would say you cut off contact automatically. It depends. Right? Is that a good answer? Maybe. It depends on the circumstances. If a person didn't have a good relationship before, there's no reason to keep it up. It can be painful. I'm not saying not. Right? But the reality is that can happen. Should it happen? I don't know. Because someone had said that rabbis never give this advice today. Probably not. Right? I would say, as I said at the beginning, the answer would be it depends on the situation. I had a family member ask me this question years ago. Would you ever tell people to do this? Cut off ties from family? I said, depends. That was my answer then. I don't think my answer is going to change. Depends on the circumstance. Right? But if a person didn't have a good relationship before you, it's not going to get better now. That's for sure. Right? But it depends. If it's a toxic situation, yeah. It doesn't matter if it's a parent or not. I get on to parents. Yeah, that's the whole discussion we've spoken about. Even if they're evil. Right? Can't disparage them. Etc. At the same time, doesn't mean that's why you have to honor them. Respect, different things. There are different laws. Even if they're evil, difference of opinion whether you have to honor them or not. Right? But you certainly can't speak lashon hara against them. Right? In general. Can't disparage them, can't make fun of them. Might be hard. Definitely might be hard, but okay. Still, you're still not allowed to. But there are times where the best thing to do is just walk away. Now, that might be painful, that might be hard, in many different ways, but that may be the best piece of advice. Why? Because you have an obligation to guard yourself, guard your family. That's your obligation. And now people are going to come in and say this and do that. What do you, I would always say a person needs certain things like they need a hole in the head. What do you need another hole in the head? More aggravation. Right? Now, again, I'm not saying 100%. A person becomes religious and changes their life. You throw everybody out of that past world. I wouldn't say that. But if there's a lot of negativity there, yeah, there are things that are going to go. It's just a matter of when. Again, would I say that across the board? No. Could people have good relationships with family, even after conversion or in the process of conversion? Yeah, there could. Right? Is it likely? Again, it depends. If I was a betting man, I would say that the odds are you're not going to have it easy with family. That's what I would say. And the experience I've had, is that the majority of people don't have it easy with family. The only question is how you deal with it, right? That's really the question, right? It's how to deal with it. And, it's not a one answer fits all, type of thing. But I would say like this, and to be a little bit graphic, right? But I would say that if God forbid a person had cancer, what do you do with cancer in general? They burn it out. That's what they do, right? Most likely you're going to have to go through chemo and you destroy it. So people can be like cancer. Hard thing to say. But, the reality is people say things, they do things, and they just don't care. And they're apathetic. Who knows, right? You fill in the blank, psychological illnesses that people have. But they just don't care. They care about themselves. And they want you to jump through hoops when they don't have to do anything. And that's hard, I can tell you, from personal experience. Right? You jump through hoops even to, I've had all kinds of crazy situations, had to deal with, had to jump through hoops and wasn't appreciated. Certainly wasn't appreciated. I did what I had to do. Sometimes, or many times begrudgingly, right? But, halachically, technically, I could get away with it. I did. Almost turned Jewish law into a pretzel, but I did what I had to do. I didn't go beyond that. I didn't do anything without asking questions, and gave my Rebbe, a lot to think about, different things, different situations, that I myself was put in, which, again, there are situations a person can be put in. There's no good way out. There's no good way out. The only question is how bad you're going to smell afterwards, right? And the answer to that is it doesn't matter. You have to do what God tells you to do. They don't like it. Go in Kogel. They don't like it. You're a fanatic. You're this. You're that. Family's everything. No. The Torah says I can't do this. Oh, but look, I jumped through hoops. I did this. I did that. So, yeah, but that's what you should do. That's your obligation because family's family. But see, the problem is, if you jump through hoops and you're doing things you don't want to do, but you're doing it, let's say, quote unquote, for the sake of family, and it's permissible, right? You might be relying on things you don't necessarily want to rely on. Well, let's say you're relying on a leniency, you can rely on it in this situation, but you're not happy about doing it. Okay. So that's the answer you get. That's what you do. What happens? Nobody appreciates it. So you went through hoops doing things you didn't want to do. I'm not saying people spit on you. But they still don't appreciate what you went through. They don't see what you're doing. They'll say that's your obligation. It's kind of annoying. Because they're not coming to you. They're not coming to you jumping through hoops. We're not the one who changed. You're the one who changed. So what? What has to do with anything? Torah didn't change. So we are now reconnecting that link, or Jews are reconnecting that link to Mount Sinai. So we haven't changed, you've changed. Go convince them. Good luck. But you just put yourself in bad situations. And like I said, in my own life, I can tell you, but I'm not going to. Story after story over the years that were just bad situations. Bad situations with whatever I do is going to be bad. So I realized, you know what? Doesn't matter. If what I do is going to be bad, I have to live with it also. I'll deal with it. But there are certain things you can't get around. You can't get around. And that's it. And if people get offended, you have to explain to them, listen, it's not anything personal. Whatever. This is something I can't do. This is something the person does. Their status is X, Y, Z. I'm not the one saying that's what the Torah says. It's what the rabbis tell me. So if that's the case, you can take it up with them. Oh, but your rabbi, doesn't matter, my rabbi's not. They have a right to interpret Torah. You don't like what they say? Okay, you don't have to like what they say. You want to call them names? Call me names. You do what you want. Torah doesn't change. Right? And that's what people have to understand. And they'll respect you in the long run because they see you're not wishy-washy. They'll see that you're not compromising for Torah. Does that mean you're going to be smelling like a rose? No. Don't ever think that. And if it happens, you're lucky. It doesn't happen all the time. So, I was dealt with a certain hand, like everybody else. I had to deal with all kinds of situations. Number of situations. None of them were good. It's the situation I was in. I remember once I went to my Rebbe late on Thursday night. And I asked him a certain question that didn't come to fruition. But whatever, the question, I had to deal with. So if I came to see him and he says, oh, you saw what I wrote about that? I said, yeah. He said, you saw the letters I had, back and forth with the stipler? I said, yeah. He goes, that why you're here? I said, yeah. That's exactly why I'm here. I told him the story, right? I told him the scenario. Anyway, it didn't come to fruition. It didn't come to fruition in the end. But it would have been a messy situation. Right? He said you can't do this. Certain things have to happen that you can't do it, and that's it. He didn't find me a way out. Okay. Thank God it didn't come to fruition. Would have come to fruition, would have been worse. But there's certain things you can't do. There's certain things that are non-negotiable. There are ways, that you might be able to work around things, even if you don't like it. You might be able to work around it. There are leniencies. Obviously, you have to ask proper rabbinic authority, etc. There are some leniencies that we can rely on, even if you don't want to rely on it. But for the sake of peace and family peace, might be worth it, even though you might be seething because no one else is going to compromise except for you. But in the end, if it has to be done, it has to be done. Right? But if there's something that can't be done, and you're going to get yelled and screamed at, well, guess what? You don't say anything, you can't even imagine the marriage you get. Can't imagine. Made a statement 30 years ago. 30 years ago. Told people, listen, if you intermarry, there's no chance we'll ever come to the wedding. We made that statement clear 30 years ago. Right? So let's say 15 years ago. So now someone's getting married. Obviously the wrong person. Someone says, can't you find a way? Can't you find, some leniency somewhere? There's no leniency. Intermarriage is forbidden. But I said, we told you 30 years ago. We said this is never going to happen. Now, they can be upset. We stood our ground. Did I have a choice? Was there any leniency? There's no leniency. A friend of mine goes to his sister's wedding, intermarried, told the story. And he said, I was there on the protest. What do you mean? You were dancing, eating kosher food on the protest. How can you go to such a thing? Family harmony. I don't know who says that's permissible. You represent Torah. How in the world do you do such a thing? I'll make it even better, right? For non-Jews. That, God forbids, you have a sibling, gets married in the church ceremony. Can you go? Can't go. Funeral, can't go. People are going to be ticked off? Probably. Non-Jews not allowed to walk into church. A Jew for sure not. Is that going to offend people? Yeah, it is. How do you get around it? You don't. How can you get around it? Let's tell me it's not really idolatry. For non-Jews, maybe tell me Shita is not really idolatry. Maybe. But most non-Jews in that situation, they say, how can I ever walk back in the church, go through a ceremony? They're not going to want to do it anyway. Even if technically maybe it's okay. Most people are not going to want to do that. Oh, what about family? Doesn't family come first? You got to make a stand. You got to tell them this is what I do. This is what I believe. I can't do this. You want to show up at the reception? Different issue. That's not an issue. Why isn't it an issue? What's going to be going on there? Mixed dancing doesn't apply to a non-Jew. Woman singing for a guy who's a non-Jew doesn't apply. Non-kosher food doesn't apply. Even if you're a JIT, that'd be okay. Right? Still not Jewish. If you're Jewish, that's a different issue. That'd be a different issue. Ceremony certainly you can't go to. Right? So the reception, maybe you could go to. You eat your own food, you eat somewhere else, whatever the case is. Comes to mixed dancing, you got a problem. So you have to walk out and do other things. It can be done. It wouldn't be pretty, but it could be done. In different ways. If it's that or like don't ever speak to you again or whatever, okay. But there's still certain things you can't do. So, like I said, from personal experience, whatever my response is going to be in different ways, the only question is what's worse. The only question is what's damage control. That's what it was. In a lot of the cases. I'm not saying I did it to myself. I just put in situations that you're never going to come out good. In most cases. Most cases. So what did I gain? Aggravation. A lot of aggravation. Right? But in the end, we laid out ground rules and that was it. And we were consistent. That's the most important thing. You have to have consistency. If you don't have consistency, you're jumping around like a cue ball all over the place. That's going to be a problem. Oh, you did this, but you didn't do that. And now you compromise like this, but you didn't do it before. You want to be consistent as much as possible. They'll respect that in the long run. Maybe not in the short run. But they'll say, that, they may say you're a fanatic, you're this or that. I've had people saying, well, I think you're a fanatic or not, but you got an unbelievable family. That's like a backhanded compliment, right? They'll say, unbelievable, your kids, you're this and that. But the problem is, if they say too much or they agree, then what are they doing in their own lives? So, you got to take a step back, so to speak. So, yeah, it's a major catch-22. Family is not the end to end all things. A person is a JIT, they move to a Jewish community, people they meet in the community would be more like family. I got friends I've had over the years more like family than my own family. That's just the truth. That's what it is. Do I wish things would have been different? Yeah, but what can I do? I always say I can help everyone in the world except myself. That's it. So if I can help others, good. I've had all these experiences, good experiences, bad experiences. I've gone through these experiences should help somewhere, go somewhere. Even help myself, but A person has to realize the situation going to be put in or not necessarily going to be a good situation. They have to know. You have to ask somebody, what to do. Not every situation is going to be forbidden. It depends on a lot of different factors. So I would agree with the last statement that someone said rabbis never give this advice today. Probably true. In other words, to cut off ties altogether, I would assume today people also do not give that advice. But as I said before, when it comes to having a connection with family, I wouldn't say it's black and white. Definitely not black and white. Depends on the situation. I'll take questions now. And I would say that people, they have to see what's going on, because in the end, I think for the vast majority, most families going to go by the wayside. That's what's going to happen. Doesn't mean it has to happen. Doesn't mean you got an obligation to make it happen necessarily. But I think the odds are that it probably will happen, right? Because you don't have any more common ground. Probably don't have so much connection to them. And, nothing good's really going to come out of it. That's pretty much what I've seen in my own experience. Someone asks, what about non-Jewish friends? Non-Jewish friends visit. How would I know whether they're making my house unclean? Yeah, let's say like this, that a person's got to be careful who they hang out with as well. Bottom line is that friends can have bad influence. I can tell you that, when I basically, became Orthodox, a lot of my friends were conservative, right? So they had no idea what I was going through, not at all. And they were not taking me in the right direction. They helped me in other ways, but it certainly wasn't going in the same direction, right? No question. So a lot of those friendships basically went by the wayside. The friends I'd known for a number of years, whatever. But there was nothing in common anymore. Okay, some of them kept Shabbos, some more, some less, this and that. But ideology we didn't agree on. Religiosity we didn't agree on. Halacha we didn't agree on. So that's what it's all about. So if that's what it's all about, what are you going to have in common? Right? So they're only going to bring you down, not the other way around. Even a person thinks they can have influence on someone else, you got to be very, very careful. Very, very careful. Because they may have a much greater negative influence on you than you will have on them. So it's definitely something to be careful about. Now, someone here mentioned something interesting. Someone here mentioned they're not going to make your house unclean per se, right? Unless they bring in, if they bring in crosses and different things or whatever. Yeah, that would be a problem. That I agree. Would certainly be a problem, right? But, is it necessarily forbidden to have someone in your house that is basically a heretic? They have heretical thoughts. They may say heretical things. Does that make your house unclean? No. Right? I mean, you might need to spray some deodorizer in it afterwards, but no, it doesn't make it unclean. Right? Just them walking in doesn't do that. Even if they're like the worst scum of the earth, right? Even the worst scum of the earth doing terrible things, that does not necessarily mean it makes your house unclean at all. Right? Whether you want them in your house or not, it's a different issue, but it doesn't have that type of effect. Only what they say. Right? What they think doesn't really matter. Only what they say. What they do, you don't have anything to do with it, so it shouldn't affect you. Right? As long as you don't think about what they do, whatever. But someone here makes an interesting statement. I want to deal with this. Someone says, instead of keep asking, you should learn the methodology of halacha and then move forward in your decision. Right? If you know the halachic process. How many JITs know a halachic process? Not too many. I mean, to look at Rabbi Dr. Google, get some answers here and there. The halachic process is not, we're not talking about halachic processing. A person's coming to a Rav with a shiloh. They're coming to a rabbi with a question, right? And the question is, am I allowed to do this or not allowed to do this? Now, why are they asking the question? They're asking the question if, let's say, it's not clear. It's not clear what the halacha should be, right? Someone just asked, can I be friends with non-Jews? Is that written in Shulchan Aruch? It's written in the Code of Jewish Law? Maybe somewhere. Maybe somewhere. Or, would I be allowed to go? Well, that's like this. Even better. Someone gets invited to a country club, non-kosher country club, middle of nowhere. Totally non-kosher. Family's going to be there. You're going to have kosher food. Right? You're going to have kosher food there. And no one thinks in their right mind when you walk in there, oh, look, the Jews walking in there, it must be permissible to eat it. There's nobody around. Right? It's not a problem what we call Marisai. Nobody's going to see. Nobody's going to see and make that mistake. So now let me ask the question. Is that permissible? Oh, what's the halachic process? What does the halacha say? You know what the halacha says? Really, it's not a problem, Marisai. It's not a problem of someone seeing you and thinking, this is okay to do. Why? Because there are no Jews around. Totally no Jews around. So if there are no Jews around, takes down that problem, Marisai. That people are going to see, oh, an Orthodox Jew walked in, it must be kosher. It must be okay. There are no Jews. So that would take the problem down. Now, what's the problem about food? No, not a problem. You have a separate table. All your food is wrapped up, never going to get mixed with other food. Can you eat there? Right? Halachically, you'd be allowed to eat there. You'd be allowed to eat there. Now, someone could say, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to a non-kosher country club with all these Jews eating non-kosher. Even if it's a family gathering. Now, there's another factor. What's the other factor? If you're around, you could go. And it's a family thing. People are going to get offended if you're not there. And now I don't have a problem with Mara Zion. There's no issue for me to be there because there are no Jews around. And it's going to cause a major stink in the family if you don't go. So you have to go. You would have to go. But you're rip-roaring mad. Why do I have to walk into a non-kosher country club? Even if it's a family matter. So you know what? Family harmony in this case overrides. It overrides. Now a person can say, but I don't want to go anyway. But I don't want to go. So for family harmony, a person should go. Now, does that fit in the question of halachic process? There's a lot of things going on over here. Right? Certain things are so cut and dry. That's why a person has to have their own das Torah. They have to have their rabbinical authority. Who knows what they're doing, well, they can ask questions to. Right now, most non-Jews, I don't care how knowledgeable, they need someone to go with them their questions. How much knowledge can you get from books? You can get knowledge from books, not saying not. Not the same if you don't have anyone guiding you. Right? Totally not. Right? Learning the methodology of halacha, how's that going to help? You need to learn halacha. You need to learn laws of kashrut, laws of blessings, laws of Shabbos. Right? You have to know how to pray. These are things you have to know. Not about methodology. Methodology you get later. Right? Methodology you get later. The methodology doesn't even really matter right now. You want to know what to do. How to make blessings. How to do this. Forget about methodology. You got to learn what the halacha is. You want to say, okay, Sephardim do this. Ashkenazim do this. What's the difference? Then you can get into methodology. But a non-Jew has to learn Jewish law. That's what they have to learn. They have to know what to do. 100% they have to know what to do. Right? But if you're not sure, which most non-Jews probably are not, you have to ask. And if you can't find it online, Rabbi Dr. Google, right? Or the Google Ador, right? You have to go and find an Orthodox rabbi can ask you questions. Right? So someone there points out, very good. Right? Who are your friends and family? And they try to help you follow Torah or not. True. Very true. Right? I'm just pointing out. Some people may want to hang on to some family and friends, even, because family's family. Friends are still good friends. The question is, what can you do with them? You're 100% right. Are they helping you in Torah or they're not helping you in Torah? Are they helping you draw close to God or not? And if the answer is no, and they're bringing you down, so then what's your obligation? You know what your obligation is? You got to separate. I've had to separate so many times, over the years. I got used to it after a while. Oh, I thought this is the truth. Nope. No, I thought this is the truth. Nope. Starting from scratch here, scratch there. Lose people there, lose people here. It's what happens. But you know what? Even in the religious world, the religious people can take you down, bring you in the wrong direction, right? And stop you from going in the right direction. 100%. Seen that also. So yeah, the bottom line is this going to be good for me spiritually? Someone there points out or not, right? And if it's not good for me and what God wants, then as hard as it may be, a person may have to, cut their ties. That's what they may have to do. And that's it. And it's painful. Definitely painful. I think the conversion process in many ways can be very lonely. It can be very hard, right? In a lot of different ways. But in the end, people who are able to move to a Jewish community, they make friends in the Jewish community, they take over family. That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. Someone there mentions yeah, comes to wine and this and that. Yeah, wine has to be kosher. Right? No question. Wine has to be kosher. Someone brings you wine, very good. So, if it's not kosher, you put it down, whatever, and then chuck it or give it to someone else. Right? Give it to another non-Jew. Then it's not a problem. Right? For a Jew to drink it, yeah, it'd be a problem. 100% would be a wouldn't be a problem. Right? But a Jew in training, no matter if you're keeping kosher or not, you want to drink the wine, you could. You can say, why would I drink the wine? I'm keeping kosher. Right? Until you go to the mikveh, you can still eat non-kosher, still go to McDonald's. Right? So a person wanted to drink that wine, they could. But if they want to start a precedent and say, no, I'm not bringing non-kosher wine, I'm not this, fine. Right? Technically, they could do that. It's not a problem. Right? But the reality is, they want to drink it, they could. Not going to do anything. Right? It doesn't affect a non-Jew the same way it does a Jew. So it wouldn't be an issue. Right? Totally wouldn't be an issue. Like my everyone said, the day before they convert, they can eat whatever they want, do whatever they want, pretty much. Right? As long as it's not forbidden. I said, you would tell someone to go to McDonald's, day of conversion? They said, what's the problem? Are they Jewish yet? Said no. They go to the mikveh yet? Said no. So what's the problem? There's no problem. Said, you would tell someone that? So he asked me again. Did they go to the mikveh? No. Right? I wouldn't necessarily tell someone to do that, but there's no problem doing that. Because they're not Jewish yet. They don't have that Jewish soul yet. So once you don't have that Jewish soul, technically anything goes before conversion. Almost. Right? As long as it's permissible. So you're going to say, wow, that's pretty wild. Yeah, it is. But obviously a person holding somewhere in the world, they're not going to want to do these things anyway. They're already on that path. They're on that path. Why would they do it? Now, some people might take just a final fling, and eat McDonald's or whatever. Not a problem, right? Definitely not a problem. But would I tell them to do that? I wouldn't tell them. So I wouldn't tell them to do that. The person in the process, we just throw this out there also, someone mentioned it, that a person in the process of conversion wants to convert, spouse won't convert, then they have to stay noahide. Right? They can't convert. Now, I've heard people say, but I'll let the person do whatever they want. Well, that doesn't matter. Both have to be on the same path. They're not on the same path, that's a problem. I'd be married to a Christian, yeah. Buddhist, Hindu, not a problem. Right? They're not affected by it. The other person will be affected. In other ways. But for them, not a problem. Right? Would it be better for them to be married to a noahide? Yeah. Do they have to get divorced? No. Not under any obligation. And I wouldn't even recommend it if they're on any other issues. I know someone told part of their story that, they're happy they're converted, and all that, but they lost their wife. Kids, or one kid, I remember, 1 kid, 2 kids, something like that. He said, I'm glad I converted, but I would have known what I would have known now. Different issue. Right? But seemingly that was the only reason. That was the reason they got divorced. Now, obviously, you can't marry her, can't remarry her, unless you want to convert, but, that's not going to happen. So that's not going to happen. Nothing to do. Right? So the person, I'm just saying, this is what the person himself said. He said, I'm glad I converted, but people should think twice, 3 times before they do that. I would say, and I've had a few cases like this where they were getting divorced anyway. So that's a different issue. Right? That'd be a different issue. But if someone were to say, would you tell someone to get divorced in such a case? No, I wouldn't tell them. Unless there are other issues. Right? Unless there are other issues. Someone here mentions, I hear a lot of noahides still believe in JC. I don't know how they can be a noahide believe in JC. I don't have an answer for that. They have to believe in one God. Yeah. Yeah, we hold it's idolatry, even for non-Jews. Right? So if it's idolatry for non-Jews, that's a problem. How can they believe in JC and still be a noahide? I don't know. That doesn't make, too much sense. Because if one of the 7 mitzvahs is what? Is idolatry. God hates idolatry. Non-Jews are obligated if they keep idolatry. But guess what? How can you be a noahide? Can't be a noahide. That's problematic. But the reality is, the vast majority of rabbinic authorities agree it's idolatry. You want to tell me that's a false religion? Yeah. Making up a new religion is another issue. That's a different issue. Right? That would also be a problem. Islam, also a problem, even if it's not idolatry. It's a false religion. Can't have false religions. Rambam states clear. Can't have a false religion. Right? But according to most rabbinical authorities, that Christianity is idolatry. So, and even if you would say it's not idolatry according to the minority, still a false religion. Right? But again, the vast majority hold it's idolatry. And again, even if people want to say Islam is not, so it's a false religion. Can't make up new religions. So says the Rambam. The laws of kings makes that pretty clear. Even though someone will say, come on, Islam's the closest thing to being a Noahide. Yeah, but it's a false religion. Even if I would agree that's true, doesn't matter. It's a false religion. Can't make up new religions. Knocks out them all. So someone say, so, if Jews aren't going to deal with Noahites, so let them go to Muslim. Let them be, let them be a Muslim. They'll keep Islam light, so to speak. No, it's a false religion. Can't keep a false religion on you. Period. You keep what the Torah says, and that's it. You don't make up your own religion over here. Right? That would be forbidden. The Rambam says that clear. Right? Rambam absolutely states that clear. Someone there points out, if you're going to believe in JC and be a Noahide, right? So you're straddling both fences. That is definitely true. That's definitely true. Someone there pointed out that they didn't know that dairy and chicken is forbidden. Right? In other words, the Torah prohibition, don't cook a calf in its mother's milk. So the Torah prohibition is kosher meat, kosher cheese. Rabbinic prohibition is non-kosher meat. Well, that'd be forbidden anyway. But let's say kosher meat, non-kosher cheese. Right? That would be rabbinic prohibition. Another rabbinic prohibition would be chicken and milk. Now, why would chicken and milk be forbidden? You're going to say the Torah prohibition is meat. Now, what is chicken? Chicken's also meat. No one says chicken isn't meat. The question is, okay, so why should chicken be forbidden? Chicken is going to be forbidden with milk because a person may forget. And a person may think, oh, chicken and milk is okay. And then they'll think meat and milk is okay. Right? And they'll forget that really it's milk and meat. Milk and red meat. So therefore, chicken and milk is forbidden. Veal Parmesan, forbidden. Right? That's bad. Chicken Parmesan, forbidden. Right? Chicken with butter, forbidden. Butter after I eat meat, forbidden. Right? It'd be forbidden. And that's the reason. Because you're going to come to a worse prohibition. You'll come to a Torah prohibition. So anything we do that could possibly come to a Torah prohibition, rabbis are going to forbid. Just like in the laws of Shabbos. Anything similar to what was done in the Mishkan and the Tabernacle, 100% will be forbidden. Why? Because you might forget that you might do the Torah prohibition. Right? And that's the point. Right? That's the point. Someone asks fish and cheese. Depends who you hold like. Ashkenazim, we eat fish and cheese. Some Sephardim do not. Some Sephardic people do not eat fish and cheese. But, the vast majority do. Vast majority, I think, do. So, Ashkenazim for sure eat fish and cheese. Now, what's the reason? Fish is not really considered meat. It's not meat. Right, but it is brought down. It is brought down Shulchan Aruch that says fish and cheese. Right, sorry, it says, instead of saying milk and meat, it said fish and meat. Fish and milk. Right, so some say that was a misprint. It's just a misprint. It was really milk and meat. Not milk and fish. But some, I'm not saying all Sephardim hold this. I don't think all Sephardim hold it. Right? Some Sephardic people will not eat fish and cheese for that reason. Fish and meat, different issue. Right? Some Jews eat blood of fish. Yeah, that should be okay. As long as it's not collected in one area. I think that's okay. Because fish blood was never forbidden. Right? But I think it's a collection. If it's in a one place, there's a lot of it there. I think it would be, I think if I remember correctly, that's a problem. But a little bit here, a little bit there, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's an issue. Because again, the prohibition is only on animals, not fish. Just like kosher fish, to kill them, I don't have to ritually slaughter them. There's no ritual slaughter by a fish. I catch a fish, it's kosher, it's got scales and fins. I let it, sit out in the sun, it dies. I cut it up any way I want. Or in order to kill it, I club it to death. Not a problem. Not a problem. Right? There's no ritual slaughter by a fish. We only learn it out by animals and by birds. We don't learn it out by fish. Caviar fish, if it's got a hechsher, it's got rabbinic supervision, should be okay. If it does. I'm not sure there is kosher caviar. Could be there is. Now, what's the issue? If it's real, let's say better. If it's real caviar, what is it? The eggs of a sturgeon fish has no scales, right? So I guess that's why we eat schmaltz. We eat schmaltz herring. Now, how could it be kosher if it's made from salmon? Let's say it's made from salmon roe, right? As it's known. If it's made from salmon roe, then wouldn't be a problem, right? But it's not made from real it wouldn't be from a non-kosher fish, right? Because, again, it comes from sturgeon, which does not have scales. So therefore, wouldn't be kosher, but there is kosher caviar because it's not made from that. It's made from salmon. So someone asks, so no egg and cheese or chicken casseroles, right? Egg and cheese is not a problem. Egg is not called meat. Egg is not a problem unless it's cooked. Let's say you put an egg, I don't know, you cooked an egg in a chicken, right? You had a full chicken, whatever, you stuck an egg inside. I cannot now eat that egg with milk. But if I take a regular egg, I hard boil it. Or if I say in Boston, I hard boil it. If I hard boil it, I can eat it with cheese. Not a problem. An egg is parv, unless it's cooked with chicken. It's parv in general. So an egg and cheese sandwich, not a problem. Right? Definitely not a problem. Unless it's cooked with meat. But you might think, because an egg comes out of a chicken, it should be meat, but it's not. Right? Same thing by milk. Milk comes out of a cow. Should be meat, right? But it changes, goes through the blood, changes. Right? So even though it comes out from the cow, right, it still has status of milk. Right? It's an interesting question why exactly that is, but that's the halacha. Right? Since it changes, it goes in from the blood or whatever, it goes out, comes out in the milk, it's a totally different thing. Totally different thing. So therefore we hold it's not even though it comes from the cow, it doesn't have meat status. So someone here points out, don't mix milk and meat, right? Right? Not meat, not chicken, right? Not anything to do with meats. Everything should be separate. Then you don't have any problems. 100% you don't have any problems. But see, it's good to live and learn, right? Because then you don't make, you make the mistakes now, you don't make them later, right? And that's the goal, right? You don't want to, certainly don't want to make more mistakes, later. So, you can get the knowledge now. Any other questions? I want to look up one other thing here. One thing here. 1 second. One second. There's no prohibition of eating fish blood, or the fact people might think people are eating prohibited food. Ritual slaughter is not required, right? That's definitely true. Someone there points out, in general, we mentioned that that fish blood, not an issue. Now you could, someone points out, you could drink fish blood from a cup or other vessel. I don't know if you would want to. It's a good point, because someone may think you're drinking animal blood. Yeah, fish blood seems to be okay, right? I don't know. I did hear someone mention a while ago whether you could. I think that was the thing, that fish blood in general, even if you eat it all one shot, drink it all one shot, if someone knows it's fish blood, you could drink it. I don't know why you'd want to, but let's say, why? Because they know you're not drinking animal blood, right? Animal blood forbidden. 100% animal blood be forbidden, right? But fish blood should be okay as long as someone knows that what you're drinking is, is fish blood, not anything else. Someone asked, so buttered bread can't be eaten with meat meal, right? Right, 100%. You're not going to put, you can use margarine. Use margarine, not a problem. But yeah, using butter would be a problem. Someone asked, cook parm soup in a meat pot. Can it be served with a dairy meal? Depends. If the soup had no meat in it, the pot was not used within 24 hours. That means it's only meat taste, and that meat taste is sour. I can eat it with dairy. Right? I think Ashkenazim wouldn't do it. I think you're Sephardic. I think it would be okay. Right? I think it would be okay. Margarine, yeah, 100% is fine. It's parv. Right? As long as it's parv, it's kosher, it's parv. Right? I mean, it has to be kosher, but if it's margarine, it's parv. That's what it means. Yeah, so again, soup cooked in a meat pot, I don't think should be served with a dairy meal. Right? In general, I don't think it should be served with dairy meal. If the pot was used within 24 hours, that would be for sure an issue. If not, I think it would be okay. I think it would be okay, but I don't think we do it. It should be forbidden in general. What is parv? It's not milk or meat. Parv means it's neutral like Switzerland, right? It doesn't have any milk status or meat status. Yeah. Any other questions? Good to have some fans out here. I'll send the chat to Rabbi Yaron, sending me some good people. That's also good. Also good to have overlap. Yeah. Any other questions? Right, general questions. Life is about change. Life's about learning. And thank God there's a lot to learn. There's a lot we don't know. Plenty that we don't know. So you say, well, there's only room to go up. That's true. Right? But, again, a person in the process of conversion, right? You're going to have to get these things down before conversion. But, that's why a lot of things the person's going to learn are all practical. Right? But, yeah, there's a lot to know. Definitely a lot to know. No question about it. I would say like this: learning it, I don't think it's the hard part. Changing, I think that's the hard part. Definitely think that's the hard part. Even Rav Yisrael Salanter, a blessed memory, once said, even changing one character trait is hard. One character trait we should change in our lives. But yeah, what we have to do is to learn, and learn to put things into practice. That's what we say in the paragraph before the Shema. We say in the morning, Lilmod lamed lishmor v'lasos. We say Lilmod lamed, I should learn to teach. I'm able to teach. Lishmor v'lasos. I should guard it. I should do it. So a person's learning Torah, as a Jew, only just because it gives them intellectual stimulation, not worth very much. Right? A non-Jew, can also learn Torah, whatever applies to them. But also, the idea is to put into practice what you learn, if it applies. If you don't put into practice what you learn, then you're just an ultra-Orthodox student. That's all you are. Or as what they would say in Yiddish, a frommer student. That's what you are. Doesn't mean you're learning Torah. It just means it's like you're learning mathematics. It's intellectual stimulation. It's beautiful. That's not Torah. Right? Change is hard. Change is very hard. Implementing change is also hard. No, I always say it's easier to know what the right thing to do is than actually do it. Right? Think about that. Knowing what to do, okay, I get the information, I can be educated. Doing it, you got it easy right now with any JIT, any Jew in training. You have it easy because you don't have a Yetzer Hara to keep mitzvahs. If you want to keep it, you do, you don't, this, that. Once a person goes to the mikvah, once they go through conversion, guess what? Then the Yetzer Hara kicks in. Then it becomes 10 times more difficult. 10 times more difficult. Why? Because now I'm obligated. If I'm not obligated, the evil inclination leaves you alone to a certain extent. Right? He's not going to throw the book at you, this, that. Right? Even if it's hard to learn, it's hard to change, hard to do all these things. Doesn't matter. Right? Totally doesn't matter. Right? But now a person says, I want to do it. And I'm going to obligate myself. And now you're obligated. Oh, that's where the evil inclination comes. That's when it gets a lot more difficult. Because now you don't have any obligations. When you don't have any obligations, it's simple. There's no pressure. You got to keep what you need to keep, and that's it. But there's no pressure. Totally no pressure. Once you got pressure to do what you need to do, and now you got to get up early, and you got to pray, and you got to keep all these mitzvahs, and you can't make mistakes, you got to guard your thoughts, that's a lot more difficult. People may say it's difficult right now. How much more difficult can it be? Don't ask. Because when it's for real, it's a whole different world. It's a whole different world. But once a person gets used to doing certain things, it does become easier. Because once you practice, once you're doing it right, you don't make the same mistakes again, in general. You might forget this, forget that, but you don't normally make certain mistakes. So that's good. At the same time, you can't let the Yetzer Hara come in either. But the Yetzer Hara is not the same before and after conversion. It's just not. It may look impossible now. You're gonna think, well, it's impossible now. What's gonna be later? Good question. Legitimate question. It's a different thing altogether. Because now you're gonna be on your own. Now it's for real, right? After conversion. Right? So it's you have a lot more to worry about. You made a wrong blessing here, you did this wrong, that wrong. Now it doesn't matter. It's all, it's all make-believe, in theory. It's all practice. When it's real, then you gotta do it right. So you want to get it down now, make all the mistakes now, so you minimize the mistakes later. But not so easy. Not so easy. That the grind can come much later. Even though people have it difficult going through the process as well. It's like, I use the the parable of someone going to medical school. Go to medical school, 30% get wiped out in the first year. 15, 20% the next year. By the third year, whoever made it. Right? And by convert, it's going to be the same thing. Less than 20% who start the process, even if they're accepted by a rabbinical court, do not finish. They don't. Could be family, could be parnasa, livelihood issues, they can't move, many different things. Many different things. They'll have difficult all the way around. But I'm just pointing out the evil inclination makes it a lot more difficult later when you have the obligation. When you don't have the obligation, it's easier in many different ways. Someone points out, parv has no meat in it at all. No dairy in it. No dairy byproducts in it. Right? Fruits, vegetables, eggs, different things. Right? But no meat or dairy byproducts. Any other questions? Someone asks, besides Chabad in Young Israel, what other Orthodox Jewish governing bodies are there in the U.S.? Not the RCA, trying to find Orthodox Jewish community. There are mainstream Orthodox synagogues that are not necessarily associated with Young Israel or Chabad, right? Depends where you're going. You can have Sephardic congregations, nothing to do with Chabad or the RCA. You could have yeshivas, nothing to do with Chabad or RCA. You could have kolas, right, where married men learn. Also, there are places, let's say Denver. Denver, has a number of synagogues that have nothing to do with the Young Israel or the RCA. You have also, in Dallas, in Texas, you have like that. California, you have like that. Right, many places. It depends where you want to go. Chicago, person wants to go to Chicago. Plenty of synagogues not affiliated with either. Right, it depends what place you want to go. Miami, no different. Right, but if a person's in a community that's in, let's say, even in a bigger city, but they live in the outskirts, that's what you're going to have. Most likely you have Chabad, right? And, maybe you have an young Israel also, right? But in other mainstream, communities, you have a choice. You definitely have a choice that have nothing to do with either. Which communities? I just mentioned a number of them. Miami's one of them. Atlanta's one of them. St. Louis, I think, is one of them. Has a number of, synagogues there. So it depends where you want to go. Yeah, any other questions? All right, there are no other questions, and I'm going to sign out. I just every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, you can find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. Send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. I'm going to wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or end of the day, depending where you are.